Alrighty, hello guys, welcome back to the channel, Diego2017 with you guys. Happy March 10th, happy Friday. Hope y'all are doing well. Have a bit on my mind tonight, so I just wanted to kind of get on and maybe just distract myself for a little while. So I figured, well, not really going to be on long. I think this playlist goes for about an hour and 5, so I'll probably have to unfortunately switch it up just so I can keep some music going, because I know I'm going to be on for a little over an hour. Probably about an hour and a half to 2 hours. Should bring me to 3:30. That's kind of when I'd like to go to sleep, because my first therapy session is tomorrow. First kind of real therapy session. Doing some DBT therapy. I was joking with Sean earlier because he asked, what is DBT therapy? And I couldn't remember, and I joked diabolical behavior therapy. They're going to show me a picture of a platypus, and then a platypus in a hat, to see how that affects me, and so on and so forth. So, but dialectical behavior therapy, which should hopefully help with my borderline personality disorder. So hopefully that'll help and get things moving in the right direction. Reached out with MLA and asked if maybe we could meet up on the 29th, and she said, I would like for you to get a few months of therapy under your belt before we even try to reconnect. I want to make sure that you are 100% comfortable and okay before we try to meet in person. She's like, I don't want you to fall apart again. It hurts to hear that, but I can respect it. And I can appreciate that, because ultimately she's looking out for my best interest in the long run. She'd like to get through some of her therapy too and maybe learn some things, and she truly just wants us to get our shit together. So I can respect that in the long run, and you know, heck, maybe a couple months up the road we'll discover maybe we're best apart, maybe we're best together, who knows. But unfortunately the situation is brought to light that, yeah, I'm not okay. I'm definitely not okay, but it's time to make a change and get back on my feet again, like I had done without her the first time. So, but regardless, what's going on here on stream? We're here in the community of Gi Ranger. I've actually named this town. I've named a couple of towns, actually. Been doing some work here in Gi Ranger, trying to get the small village done. And those mountains in the background, though. Also, I just need to take a second and just admire those. Those are very nice. Helvete Fjordfjellet. And of course you have that mountain over there, and that mountain over there, and all these other mountains, of which don't have a name. But as you can see, the Kaldvannian landscape, it's very gorgeous. Iceland. Anyways, even just how the hand-built terrain is, it's just very nice. And looking back towards Trondheim, just off in the distance, I mean, that's cool, seeing all the buildings on the skyline like that. That's a cool sight, because I mean, you can even, right down here, you can see the big cathedral and stuff like that, and some of the embassy buildings sticking up over the horizon, and I think that would be the telecommunications building. So I mean, it's just cool to be able to see that on the horizon as such, and I don't know, there's something that I like it. I like being able to see a nice skyline off in the distance, and to me that's cool, the fruits of my labor, actually being able to be seen like that. But of course we have Gi Ranger. Was building an Aldi before I got off, but we have the road that comes up here towards the interchange, or well, the on and off ramp. Oh, that lights up. Oh, but it lights up in the sky. We just won't look at it from that angle. Kind of funny though. Alright, I guess that works. We're gonna go ahead and bring it to daylight here. Was working on some highway signs, so we actually have some new town names to look at. And of course just other things in general. So heading south towards, or south along the A13. We're heading towards the towns of Straumen, Helheim, and Castine. So that's kind of the first time that we're actually getting to see the name of the town Castine on the highway signs, and just general direction and so on and so forth. course, heading on the A13 north, we have the highway can take you towards Steinettebucht, which is along the A113. You have Kurigerhaven, which eventually is along the B6. Of course, that takes you towards Trondheim International. And then we just have Trondheim, which will be major destination attractions and historical landmarks, as well as the cargo port, amongst other things. And of course, as we get close towards Trondheim, we'll start seeing signs for Centrum Airport and why am I forgetting names? Sorgenfree and stuff like that, but just the general sign here. Straumen is the next community that we'll be passing through. That'll be exit 9. It's about 10 miles up the way from here. As of right now, I don't believe there'll be another on and off ramp anywhere nearby. Yeah, Straumen's the next town that we hit, kind of heading off into the country. And then Helheim is kind of the town that's going to be situated in the crook here. It'll be kind of the most notable community, I guess you could say, if it wants to load. So if you're familiar with Kaldvannian geography, kind of right here where the coastline heads directly south, kind of along this river right here, maybe around here-ish will be Helheim. It'll be kind of where the A13 meets, and I believe it's where possibly the A12 or the A11 comes in. That'll head towards Narvik, which Narvik is somewhere along here. I believe Narvik is along. Yep, there it is. I say it's along one of these rivers. Oh, it's my cat, and he's a man. But that is leagues up the road. But we are taking our first concrete step onto the mainland. But amongst other things, I have done some work with some of the signs and kind of getting the area signed up. Oh, it's Toby. Oh, I gotta pet him because he's a good boy. Oh, he flopped it. And now he's getting belly scratches because he's a good man. What a soft belly of yours, sir. How'd it get so soft? How'd it get so soft? Okay. But if we come over to here. Oh, did they oh, no, they didn't. I was going to say, like, did they delete? There should be one. Yeah, right here. So I did some work on some of the signs, so we actually are starting to see some sea highway shields. So this is the C-17. Oh, it's a man! I'm going to make you a lap cat real quick. You are now a lap cat. Oh, no. Chickaboga, 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 chickaboga. Yes, continue to do so. Continue to be a cat. Okay. Alright, Toby, I'm on a live stream, okay? And then we can go snuggle. Yeah, so we have the C-17 shield, and we, of course, have the A-13 shield. So you can kind of see some of these distinct differences between A roads, C roads, and B roads. This is just a placeholder. I'm going to redo this sign. This is from early Kaldvann, back when it was just a hodgepodge of different routes that I've accrued. But this is Ski Ranger, like I said. I did put an Aldi in here just because I figure it's right at the crossroads of the highway coming in. Ski Ranger is not a huge community, but there's a little bit more to do, and considering their proximity to the highway and the fact that Trondheim is right there would mean that there probably is still some services here in the area, and I figured an Aldi right here just off the highway would be the best thing. So I was building this earlier before I had to leave for work. And just getting the general layout of the town kind of put in. Of course, as you kind of push this way, it gets a little more scarce. Something else I was doing off camera. Of course, this road got extended out, but I was working with some of these JMR signals. And I, you know, got into a session and test them out, and they seem to work relatively well. So I might be working more with them. Of course, I don't exactly know how vaders work and what vaders go where and where you need certain signals, but for the most part, I've talked with LTG and a friend of his last night who I think was a signal maintainer for Norfolk Southern, and he was able to give me some tips and tricks and stuff like that between the two of them. Kind of worked on this industry back here, the grain elevator for the Gee Ranger Farmers Association. I just don't think there was much other work that was done. Of course, they need to put like a bungalow nearby or like a relay case or something like that. Of course, see the junction signs again. Then we have actual town name signs. So there's Hasvik, and then there's Gee Ranger. The lovely farm fields of the area, which I need to replant some of the bushes I had planted a little bit some time ago, because those bushes are gone now. And I've also moved these lighted crossings to the main road. And over here, kind of on, I mean, it is still the main road, but it's the main road of the town. They just get the passive crossbucks. So I think that works just fine. And I believe this area is going to be getting its traffic lights demoted down, or at least the traffic lights that I was using in Gee Ranger. But we push on the main line. Next set of signals are up here, just on the other side of the crossing. So we're approaching another siding coming up, so which that siding is going to be, I believe this is Brekstad, or Brekstad, or Berkstad. I forget exactly what I called this town, but there will be a sign coming up. So I'll be able to figure that out. It is Brekstad. So Brekstad has the, it's a little over 2 miles, but close enough. But Brekstad siding, or the Brekstad interlocking, which is here. And then there'll probably still be, I might move this food processing plant over towards Gee Ranger, which so it's closer to the highway. But it might also just, I might just move it all together and put something else here. There will be an industry just off the interlocking, which that interlocking will end just over here. So there's the interlocking west, and then it comes around the long corner across the long bridge, and I haven't signaled it yet. I believe a 3-headed signal would be the best, but of course we have this large interchange right here, so I'll need to figure out how to signal that and so on and so forth. But that's kind of what's been going on over here. And I think as we continue to push along, there will just continue to be farm fields. Like I said, it's a very farm-rich area. And I do want to extend this forest a little bit to kind of maybe come around the corner, come back here, and then kind of back sides of these fields, kind of create a wooded border between the fields and the mountains, because I don't really want the fields coming up into the mountains. So like I said, very, very nice terrain and land and such. So I guess the big thing too was just getting, like I said, the divisions between the fields separated by shrubs and stuff like that, and foliage, which, like I said, I had planted, but for some reason it was like a stretch of the C-17 didn't load. The signs for Gee Ranger and Hasvik didn't load. Like I had, I think I had crossbucks here at one point, but they're no longer there. And at one point, like, the tracks for this industry disappeared. So I don't know exactly what's happened or what the issue was. I'm hoping it's resolved now, because I think it's the second time I've had to relay these tracks. So it's been very strange. It's been very, very strange, but hopefully we're beyond it. But yeah, so we're going to continue working along the C-17 in the right-of-way. I might go ahead and work along the right-of-way tonight, and maybe get some right-of-way-isms done. Because eventually I'd like to, you know, maybe And I do dare say, build a rail yard, because there needs to be a rail yard somewhere out here. Because before I actually get into building, like, the main rail yard for all the island over here, for Orkinger County, is this gray strip over here up by Sun at the Book. This is like the big Kaldvann National Yard for Orkinger County. There's an additional yard over here. There's 2 rail yards, one on each side of the island. One's ran by Imskip, one's a Kaldvann National. Kaldvann National, in theory, does run trains along Orkinger County, and then over here into whatever we so happen to call this county. Oh, I'm already yawning. I think it's Hellsvetta Port County, or Hell's Gate County. I think it's what I ended up calling it. Yeah, there's no real rail yard along here. I could put like a small divisional yard out here for the area, but I mean, is there really a need? And that's kind of what I don't know. So it's interesting. It's interesting to say the least. So, because in theory, I could have put a rail yard over here by the airport and just had Imskip's yard and the main yard. Then we just go between them, and actually, that's probably not a bad idea. That's actually really, and then maybe just a smaller yard somewhere over here. Oh, that's probably not a bad idea at all. That might be what happens. Yeah, it could just be off the Y, and then you could have... Could probably put a hump yard somewhere over here. Huh. That would probably also help out with some of the warehouses and kind of the rail-served mail service in the country. Yeah, that actually might be a good idea. I think I just talked myself into that. But for the time being, before I get too distracted again, let's go ahead and just work along the right of way here. So the big thing is I think I need a bungalow of some kind here, and I need to get the crossing in, which I can find the crossing that I want. Since it's kind of a quote-unquote county road, and not a state-maintained road. They're just gonna get the regular old just lighted crossbucks, and that's all they're gonna get. So that'll be what they get over here. You know, because it's not a busy road. It is kind of a bypass to lead into Orkinger County, or I'm sorry, Tagi Ranger. I mean, it's not even really a quick bypass either, because, you know, obviously you can do good speeds down this road, which will lead you straight there, whereas you gotta make your right turn, come down over. I mean, it is one way to get into town, you know, without actually having to go through town. Depends on what you're going to. I mean, regardless, you still have to come over. But I don't think it's going to get anywhere that you want to be any quicker than going down the the C-17. So, but still, it's a county road. Speed limits are slower. You really wouldn't come down this way if you didn't need to. Let's see, probably a bungalow. That's a nung. It'd be a relay. Probably be a relay. I think that would be correct. Correct me if I'm wrong. I think that would be correct. Yeah, that'll be fine. I don't know if every crossing needs those or if every signal needs those or whatever, but we'll go ahead and grab some kind of gravel and dirt. As you'd have to imagine that they would probably be doing, would have, if I could spit it out in English, they would probably be doing some work, so might be some dirt along kind of the crossing area right here. I will put more kind of grass along here, and I'll see what we're going to do about ballast, if I'm going to just spline it, or what we'll do from here. The area is slowly, like I said, slowly getting filled out, and that's what I'm happy with the most. I mean, it's just weird how different an area can look just with some textures. 'Cause, I mean, just coming through here and and seeing the trees and going, okay, and there being some textures, like, okay, but now that there's fields and stuff, it actually kind of gives this area a bigger feeling to it. Like you get an idea of, what the general, I guess, kind of, yeah, the word I'm looking for is definitely feel for the area. You kind of understand what goes on around here. It's a farming community, or there's a lot of farming that goes on a lot around here. People that live in this area probably farm in some capacity, or work on farms, or have something to do with agriculture. They are close to the city, but yet we're still kind of in the country. So this is, kind of pushing out of the urban area, and I think that um, the river here, the body of water, the sound in between us and Trondheim gives a nice division between the two. We go from the big bustling city to the country, where things are definitely getting more compact and zoning laws are a bit different, and the just general way of the people are different. People aren't living like they're living in the city. Um, People that live out here, if they want to go into town, they most certainly can, between Hasvik and Geiranger, which they do. But way back when, a lot of this community, especially Geiranger, and I'll kind of get to that in a minute, because I'm trying to think, like, how would this town have been? Because prior to the highway project, they didn't have this bridge. The ferry terminal was at a Hasvik, so people from Geiranger had to drive over to Hasvik, and then get on a ferry to go to Trondheim. Geiranger, for the longest time, I don't even think ever had a ferry terminal at any point of its history, because there was already a ferry terminal in Hasvik. There was a fishing port in Geiranger, but there was no ferry terminal. So if you wanted to get on the ferry, you had to go to Hasvik. I'm sure maybe at one point, possibly, there might have been a ferry. But over time, they consolidated and gave the ferry to Hasvik as kind of the regional transport center, which is a lot you see out of Hasvik right now, because there is the Hasvik Transportation Center. You have the airport, you have kind of the train station, there is bus service that goes in and out of Hasvik. It's kind of the regional hub of the area. But even Brekstad, on the other side of the fjord, the big cliffs and stuff like that, it'll have a ferry port of some kind. It'll have a direct ferry access to Krigerhaven and Trondheim and so on and so forth. And you can come down here to Hasvik. It just depends on the population. The population of Geiranger really has never been terribly high, but you could also argue that for Hasvik. So how did Hasvik get the port? How did it get a ferry terminal? Well, Hasvik already has a very well established port. Their port was very well done. They have the breakwaters and stuff like that, so its port was more well equipped to handle a ferry terminal. Brekstad's ferry terminal, I guess you could call, is a recent addition. They're basically utilizing it just because Brekstad has a higher population, a much more dense population, and they don't have a train station and stuff like that is their argument, which you could say the same for Geiranger. But technically speaking, the distance between Brekstad and Hasvik is greater than it is between Hasvik and Geiranger, because Geiranger and Hasvik are about a mile in separation, I would say. I mean, about about 2-ish miles, I would say, roughly, whereas Brekstad is probably closer to 3 or 4, maybe even 5 miles. So there's already a greater distance to travel between the two. So there's really no... Again, you could argue people could use the Hasvik Transportation Center, especially where you have bus service that comes from Brekstad that is even going to Geiranger. But Geiranger has the highway access, whereas Brekstad does not. Brekstad only has the C-17, which leads over to the P-43, which leads to Krigerhaven, which doesn't get you to Trondheim. So they have to come all the way around, whereas Geiranger is right there. But way back when, Geiranger didn't even have that. Geiranger did not have that access that was granted, but also again, Geiranger, or Brekstad's ferry terminal and ferry service is relatively new. They've lobbied for it, and they finally got it. So where does that leave Geiranger? Well, Geiranger doesn't quite have the infrastructure and doesn't quite have a suitable enough port for it. So there's no real need for it, and especially where Hasvik has been dumping money into their ferry terminal to improve it and make it suitable as kind of the regional ferry terminal of the area. You know, kind of this side of the county. It would be argued that, you know, hey, you know, we put in our time, we put in our work to get the ferry terminal to be like this, so, you know, you don't need one. So any lobbying that Gear Ranger would do would probably automatically get shot down from the ferry, from the transportation department, because again, Hasvik is right there. So that leaves Gear Ranger in kind of a weird space and a weird, you know, kind of area in terms of its own transportation independence. But again, they also are along the A13, so they don't necessarily need ferry service. You know, you could also argue that, hey, Hasvik's not far from the A13 either, but they're far enough away, and ferries are very important in the country. You know, even looking at Norway and even just how ferries interact here in Portland, Maine, ferries are still very important. It's another way of alleviating traffic from the highways, and also, even for people who don't have cars, it still gives them the freedom and the ability to commute into Trondheim, or even Krigerhaven and beyond. It still allows them to go places. But long time before the A13 existed and before the Nidsunde Bridge went in, Gear Ranger was kind of just out here, and it was looking afar to Trondheim. You know, it sat here with this open view of Trondheim, where Hasvik does not. They have a very limited view to the now off-ramp for Hammeren. Oh, it's Toby. What are you doing? What are you doing? Why are your ears folded back? Why are you fighting with the other cats? You know, it has this view of Trondheim that not many other communities in the area get, if any communities at all. It's the only community that has the direct view into Trondheim. So they could see all the lights of Trondheim, they could see all the hustle and bustle of Trondheim, but they had real no way of getting there. So they would have to rely on the ferry service. So a lot of the people who lived here had big city aspirations, but small town vibes. So the community, you know, established its own recreation center, which is now home to an ice arena, which can be converted into, you know, other venues, basketball court, so on and so forth. There's a movie theater and stuff like that. You know, they tried to give the community something to do. There are a good amount of shops that are in the kind of the business district, if you even want to call it that, of the town. In kind of the business district of the town. So it's you know, so there are things to do, and you know, a long time ago there may have been other things to do. You know, may have been a pier and to go fishing and whatnot. But a lot of the people of Gear Ranger grew up in the farm fields, and they grew up working the fields and stuff like that. This is a very hard-working community. You know, either you worked on the ocean fishing, or you worked in the fields farming. This was very much a blue-collar town. But over time, Gear Rangers started to get connected more to city living. During, I want to say it was sometime during the 50s, if I could find the note real quick. The note I have here for Kaldvann. Road infrastructure projects began in 1952. The A13, which in its current state didn't come by Gi Ranger until the 60s. The first bridge across the Nidsun was not constructed until 1964, and back then it was a very long, low bridge with a large draw section in the middle, similar to the bridges on the Chicago River. That was the first version of the A13, which ran into its own problems, being so low to the water. It forced a lot of boat traffic to go through the lift section, through the draw section of the bridge and stuff like that. So it was very congested, especially being a large-scale highway. It created a lot of problems. Also, bad weather is very common out here, and low visibility conditions can also plague the area as well. So the bridge did have two notable instances where a boat did collide with the bridge. Nothing large. Most of them, I think the largest was a regional cargo vessel. Nothing too big, but it did create some pretty substantial damage to the bridge, and the vessel ultimately sank. It sank from the sustained damages and slipped below the water in 1970. I believe it was 1973, if I'm looking at my history correct. So after that sinking, it was put forth to the highway department to build a newer suspension bridge, something a lot taller, something a lot, that would get off the water, so to speak, and allow vessels to freely pass under the bridge without worry of running into it. And there would be no more congestion because there would be no need for a draw section. So the project for the new Nidsun Bridge began on... I don't actually have that part of my history typed up yet, but it began in 1976 and was completed approximately 2 years later. Again, also, I'm just guesstimating. I don't actually know how long it takes to construct a bridge like this, so that could get tweaked as well. But according to my history right now, it took about 2 years for the project to be completed. The old bridge was decommissioned and the new bridge was put into service, and, well, this is the suspension bridge we see to this day. Which gave Gi Ranger a whole new, it just gave the community a whole new access, unlimited, unbridled access to Trondheim, without having to worry about the draw section being up or issues going on with the bridge. I guess the only real issue we have to worry about is high wind events, which, do happen, but even still, the bridge is designed to handle that. It's just going to be a little bit of a weird ride. I mean, there are other options for Gi Ranger residents, which you have to take the C-17 all the way over to cross over here on the B-43 up on its suspension span, which also replaced a lift section. Also looking at the coastline, I might shrink this down a little bit so it's a little narrower, not as wide. It might widen out in this area just a little bit, but it's going to kind of come back up and then shoot over this way. I might do more with this peninsula to kind of wrap it around, because right now it's a little too narrow for my liking. It kind of looks weird, so yes, the area was kind of plagued with connectivity issues even after the A13 and the Highway Acts were established in '52. The A13 is amongst the newer A roads that was constructed. linking Trondheim in through some of the rural areas and around towards Helheim before pushing onward, I believe, either by the A11 or A12 toward Castine. And even still, the A13 was marred by issues even into the present day, as we've previously discussed in other live streams, and actually why the A13 has been quote-unquote rerouted. Just because of political issues and, you know, living issues that were going on within Trondheim. Jesus. For how tedious it is to make to get some textures down, especially when you're trying to avoid painting over a texture. And don't worry, I will add other textures here, like I always do. Just putting in at least the base layer. And then I'll go ahead and add everything else, so... But a lot of the population that lives in Gearanger now is shifted. A lot of the people that previously, you know, worked farms, you know, maybe don't anymore. You know, now that they have direct access via one of the larger and busier highways in the country. They're able to travel into Trondheim for work, for pleasure, and stuff like that, and they don't have to rely on going over to Hasvik to get on the boat and really having to plan out their day in order to do all that. And even still, you know, the Hasvik Transportation Center has grown to now incorporate air service, so that even allows them to start accessing different parts of the island. More so than just Trondheim. They're able to fly to Castine, they're able to fly to Narvik, they're able to fly to Brunswick, they're able to fly anywhere they so wish in the country, and even connect to airports to fly beyond. So the opportunities for Port County or Hellsgate County has grown substantially. So even people living in Brekstad and Hasvik have now been granted new opportunities to fly alongside driving and taking the boat and taking the rail. So it's very well connected, and I suppose you could say living next to the capital does have its benefits. You know, living next to one of the largest cities in the country does have its benefits. Probably will be a farm field over here as well. Just trying to think about available land and how it would get used. And I'm assuming this would probably be used for farming or something to that nature. Maybe it's just a empty space of land that hasn't been occupied yet, and but it is such a large area to have to paint. But I remember sitting there one night. It was right before Christmas, I actually think it was the night before Christmas. But you know, I was up with Emily, and she wanted to make this painting for her, I think her May and Pei, her grandma and granddad, and um, you know, they have land up north, like way up north, up in Aroostook County, and you know, they take very, very beautiful sunsets. You know, they take photos of very, very beautiful sunsets up there. And she wanted to paint like 4 different versions of the sunset for her May and Pei. Didn't start it till the last second, stuff like that, and you know, started it that night. And you know, I remember looking at, you know, watching her throughout the evening, because I think I just played my video game or whatever, or watched YouTube or just something while she painted, and it was kind of an incredible process, because I always thought Emily is a very good artist and whatnot. I've always kind of secretly wanted a painting from her, because I thought she was very, very good, and I still think she's very, very good. She's very talented. But, you know, I've never really painted much in my life, and you know, it was like watching her start it and go, okay, you know, I just see colors on the canvas and stuff like that. Then after a while, it's like, okay, you know, like, I can see what she's going for. It looks good. And then after a while, it's like, you know, when you thought it looked good, you look back and she's added all sorts of little colors and details to make it look even better. And it's like, how'd you do that? How did you do that? And like, she's very critical of herself, because she's like, oh, I rushed it. I'm like, are you kidding me? That's a great guy. That's a damn good job. And of course, she's sitting there thinking, oh, I'm just boosting her ego. God damn it. Her ego, because I'm, you know, her boyfriend and stuff like that. And I'm just supposed to tell her, no, it looked damn good. It looked damn good. I wish I had a photo of it. But it's like the only thing I have to kind of comment on, you know, or really relate to in terms of painting is this. This is the only real thing that I have to relate, you know, is plopping textures down and painting something to look good. And a lot of it is mixing textures. You know, it might be a similar variety, might be a you know, bunch of different textures to make something look good. Particularly one example is the cliffs that I make, the cliffs that I hand paint, that I don't use splines for. And I think the only example I have of that in Kaldvann is over here by the Capitol. Maybe it's not the best example anymore, but as you can see here, you get the kind of the idea of the different colors of the cliff. And of course, maybe if I might have to do it again, you know, here soon, but you kind of get the idea. I think we do it over here a little bit. I think it just looks a little better along the highway, or what was the highway and stuff like that. But you kind of get the idea of the different textures and the different colors of the cliff, you know, because the cliff most of the time isn't just the same uniform color. There's different layers to it. There's all sorts of different layers. You know, it's not just the same rock that goes all the way through. You know, there's going to be different kinds of rocks and different kinds of layers of rocks and so on and so forth. So, you know, that's really the only thing that I could relate to her with, was the fact that, you know, okay, you know, you're painting something, okay, and it looks phenomenal, and it took a bunch of different colors and a bunch of different tactics to get it to look that way. Just trying to think of what field to plant. I like this one. This one wasn't actually half bad. So we're gonna just plant this. But you know, that was kind of the only thing I could really relate to her with was, you know, our different forms of, oh, it changes. Maybe we won't use that one. Maybe we'll use this one. Okay, that works a little better. I gotta turn it. Yeah, it looked great up until it was shiny, and then it's like, oh, I don't like that. And then maybe I'll back it up from the road as well. I don't want it so close. But we can also just do that after I'm done. Nope. And it's gonna come till we get about, I'd say here-ish. You know, I showed her some of the areas that I've worked on before, and I don't know if it was ever impressive to her. You know, but I've showed her some of the shots in the Carabasset from, you know, like, of course, the really only area that I have to show off is Chain of Ponds, and so on and so forth. But, you know, it's like she would look at Chain of Ponds and go, okay. You know, and I would show her shots in and around Kaldvann and try to show her a lot of it is playing with colors and stuff like that, especially like the sky. A lot of especially Kaldvann, that's all me messing with environmental settings and just doing, kind of playing with something until it just looks right. You know, and I think at that moment it kind of clicked to her that, oh, hey, I do understand. You know, I get it. I can relate. You know, that I'm just sitting here on my computer, you know, yeah, I'm not physically, you know, picking up a brush and, you know, putting it on a physical canvas, but I'm also sitting here playing with colors and just kind of messing around with a brush and, you know, picking a palette of, you know, yes, pre-made textures, but I'm still sitting there and trying to play with those textures until something looks right. And I'm playing with colors on a palette until something looks correct, until something looks like, you know, it would out here in the real world. I also probably should have gone ahead and leveled this terrain and left the tracks just up and then put a gravel or a spline ballast or ballast spline underneath it, but I guess live and learn. You know, but that's what I'm doing is, you know, it's still art, but in a different media. You know, it's a different form of art altogether. It's not, you know, exactly what she does. It's, you know, it's different. It's different, and that's okay. But I think that was one of the few moments where, like, you know, she actually knew I understood, and that I got it. You know, it's like, yeah, I get it, because, you know, I do something like this online. You know, I sit at my computer and try to find something that looks correct. And if I can't find something that looks correct, then I don't do it. Oh, it's my cat, and he is still a man. You know, so that was always a nice bonding moment. Was kind of between our different forms of art. Do I want to use this? No, I really don't. You know what? We'll actually just keep it this way that it is now. Um, but to me, that's what it all is. It's just it's art. You know how people can take a ground texture, and you know some people are good at it and some people aren't. You know, like I watch people like Parrot and how he can paint a desert and stuff like that. I forget. I think it is the Washoe Valley. Um, you know how he can make a desert look nice. You know that takes talent. That takes skill. This all takes some form of talent. You know, not everyone can build a nice looking scene. Not everyone can build a nice looking city. I believe I can build a decent looking city. You know, some people tell me I'm crazy and my cities are phenomenal. Some people, you know, lackluster. I've seen a lot of other cities that look phenomenal. Like a guy, I think his name is Thomas Ray or something like that on like the TRS-19 Facebook group. He posts some phenomenal port scenes and you know, like his airport, which I thought my airport looked great. And then I saw his airport, and I'm like, ah, I got beat. You know, but that's also someone with maybe a little more skill and a little more time on their hands than perhaps me. Uh, that doesn't mind sitting there and kind of messing around with different things and different assets. Probably gonna need to set another set of silos somewhere nearby. Just try to think of another farm kind of stead, a farmstead that we can have. I'm just trying to see maybe where the terrain is a little more flat though, because I don't want to be building on another slope. It was flat right about there. Funny enough, there's something. So I guess there's a farm right here. Make it so. Crap. Sorry, my neck has been killing me for the last, like, week or so, and finally took some Advil, which I don't normally do. Or Tylenol or Aleve or whatever the fuck it was. That's something I normally do. You know, I just believe it'll get better on its own, whatever. But this is just, my neck has been killing for a while, and it's probably stress at this point, because I've been utterly stressed out with the whole Emily situation, and you know, the fact that my relationship blew up my face, and you know, trying to put it back together, and you know, she wants all sorts of time and space between us so we can, you know, get our shit together. And like I said, I get it, I do. It doesn't make me feel any better. You know what? This is the farmhouse. So it's kind of facing the road a little bit. Say, give the man a nice view. But yeah, it's just like right up at the top of my spine. Just super, super sore. Like very, 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 very sore. And you know, I thought it was, oh well, my water to Pepsi ratio is not very high, so I may need to kick off some of the Pepsi and replace it with water, which I have been. You know, at work I'll get a 16-ounce can of Pepsi, and I'll drink that, rinse it out, and then I'll go ahead and drink 3 or 4 cans of that of water. I'll fill it with out of the water cooler and stuff like that. And you know, been feeling relatively fine, whatnot, but after a while I just kind of noticed, like, nah, the neck just still hurts. Like, my neck still just hurts, and I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's the bed. I don't know. But it's just like, you know, I'm just getting kind of old. Or not old. Well, I am getting old. 26. Um, you know, it is just kind of getting old at this point of just like, okay, like, what is my problem? Well, I have a lot of problems, but what is my immediate problem? You know, what is ailing me? That isn't girl related. That isn't girl related for a change. Um, you know, what is causing me pain in my neck and stuff like that. That also isn't work related. You know, that's kind of the pressing issue at the moment. It's like, you know, what is really kind of bothering me, physically, anyways. Oh, I hit cancel. Hey, you know what? I'm gonna be painting on it at some point anyway, so we might as well. This is all pretty flat, which, like I said, it'd be good to put some farm-related items in. And that's the thing is, you know, you can put all the farm fields you want, but where do, you know, who owns these farms? You know, where are the actual farming equipment, which, you know, kind of lacking assets for, but, you know, where are the actual farming equipment? You know, where does the, you know, where do the farms go? Where do they store their crops and stuff like that? Some of them might just bring it straight to the silos. Some might store it and then bring it to the silos, kind of get their harvest all together before they take it to market. You know, some of them might have other animals. Some of them might have dairy cows. Some of them might have, you know, oh, it's Toby. Oh, being a man, look at him. Just love that cat. Apparently he loves me too, which, shocking, considering I'm an asshole. My uncle was telling me, apparently about 11:30, 12 o'clock, right before I get home, he'll go over to the door. Stop. He'll go over to the door and just kind of start hanging around it. He'll kind of start sitting there at the door and looking at it, and, you know, just, he knows I should be coming through there pretty soon. When? Well, that's a mystery, but I should be coming through that door any minute. Sorry, I also realized, like, there were other Dave Snow buildings that I hadn't quite downloaded, and I think that's also the end of the playlist. That's the end of the playlist. Let me turn it off real quick. I guess we'll get this up. Oh, I did not want to go full screen. Ooh, the Google Pixel Magic Eraser with Jesse. Ooh, I get another ad. Cool. Ooh, it's the Hyundai Gateway event. Or Getaway event. I always thought it was Gateway. I'm just an idiot. Okay. Just wanted to keep the music going. I didn't really want it to get quiet, because then I gotta fill the void. You guys can really only listen to my voice so much. I don't even remember what I was talking about at this point. And that's when everyone erupted in cheer. What was I talking about? Oh yeah, no, the farms. You know, but it's like, you know, okay, you have your fields and stuff like that, and yeah, you got the silos, but it's like, people own these fields, people work these fields, and people, you know, their livelihoods revolve around what goes on over here. So it's like there needs to be some sort of just stuff. There needs to be something. There needs to be something for the farms themselves. There needs to be some sort of like support facilities and farmhouses and where equipment goes and so on and so forth. Like I mentioned, it's like, it's one thing to have the scenery show that, yeah, there's farms around here, but where are these farms? Where are the farm owners? Where are the people? That's one thing that I've kind of noticed when seeing some people's work is like, you'll see the farm fields or you'll see something, but where did those come from? Like, who owns those? Where does that stuff come from? But it's just like, you can say that about a lot of things though with certain projects. Is like, okay, I see what you're doing, and that's cool, but where does all this stuff go? Who owns, like I said, who owns these things? What's the story behind it being there? It's just, it leaves so many questions, and I guess that's just kind of where maybe me and different people just differentiate, is that, people just make things and go, okay, good enough. But like, I want to make something and be like, okay, so this is this, and, it takes this in for X, Y, and Z, and, then it ships it out to here, there, or wherever, and so on and so forth. And people go, that's cool, but you don't really need to do that. And it's like, no, I need to do that, so I don't lose my brain. Because, like, you have to understand, that's how my brain works, is that if I don't make it go somewhere, if I don't have this make sense or answer the question in my head, like, okay, so where is all this stuff going? Where is it coming from? It's gonna eat me alive. It's gonna eat me alive. So, like, I need to, like, get this figured out now so I don't lose my shit. Otherwise, I'm screwed, and I'm gonna sit there for weeks on end wondering, well, where all does this crap go? I'm just going to manually plop in some other silos right next to it. Just for storage. It doesn't quite exactly fit, which actually we might go ahead and just grab the non-silo version of this and keep our own silos. To which, yeah, we'll actually grab the weathered version. Or, you know what, we'll grab just the regular version. Still looks nice, it just doesn't look, like it went through the nuclear war. 308.7. I like this. like this. Oh. .7. Like, I kind of don't want to talk over this lady singing. Was that it? That was very nice. Kind of reminds me of my Norwegian friend Ingvild. She, very, very beautiful voice. And he has 3 silos then at this farmstead. Probably make a dairy farm somewhere. Sorry, I was trying to get a look and see, you know, what do I want to do real quick. I don't think he's going to be watching it, honestly, but a big shout out to WIT Simulations. Was watching his stream. Kind of been following along with some of his work on the Riverton, which I have to say, it's been looking mighty fine lately. But I believe today he should be launching his website, which I believe Chance Trainman7616 will kind of have a hand in. Former Backshot member, or I guess kind of the sole proprietor to the rights to Backshot at this point. So someone I used to, well, quote-unquote work with in some point, at least talk with every day back then. So guess they should be getting a website for WIT Simulations up and running, so best of luck to them, and I believe he, don't quote me, but pretty sure he said he'd have a live stream going up tonight, or possibly that or Sunday. I believe he said something like that. Looks like he did a module for I want to say Marietta. It is not Marietta, Georgia. Folkston, Georgia. Kind of like a little rail fanning scene, more or less. Kind of like I guess it's more or less a module. You know, you want to call it that. But he has like a rail fanning module and so on and so forth. That you know, for Folkston, Georgia. That looks very nice. It's a very simple concept. I like the concept. You know, so, and I think Sunday he's going to be doing a stream on the Riverton to fix some of his work and such. So, but do consider giving him some support and stuff like that, and heading over and maybe checking out his channel, and if you haven't already done so, which I'm assuming if you found mine, you might be aware of who's who in the trainz community, more or less. But in case you haven't, you know, like I said, definitely give him a shout, give him a look. Like I said, show him some support, show him some love, and yeah, just consider looking at his channel. So it's really kind of all I got to say to that. But definitely excited to see what his website has to bring and the people he's working with, and you know what project they have for the future. You know, and I'm all for people coming into the trainz community and trying their best to make something happen. You know, and trying to bring their own kind of brand to the community. Yeah, I've definitely been following some of the newer kind of content creation groups. You know, the Switchback. Who are some of the guys I've been watching lately? It's Switchback. Yeah, Switchback. The switchbacktrainz.com. There's also, God, it's not Trainz Forge. It's God dang it, I can't remember the name of the group. Look, it's the so there's the Switchback. I think it's like, I know they're on go to Approach Medium. Give me a second. Shameless self-promotion. They're in here somewhere. Let me see. There's their Switchback. So they're doing Southern Railway Old Fort loops. The other... Wigwag Simulations. That's who it is. I've been looking at them lately, and you know, they got some nice reskins and stuff like that, and like, I think Wigwag particularly painted the LRS GATX 50-foot boxcars that I would see kind of up here, which is helpful for Carabas-related items, so... because these are boxcars that I see roll through here all the time, particularly heading to the paper mills, so, you know, this is very common in my area. You know, seeing boxcars more along the lines of like this. You know, I see all sorts of boxcars just like this. So this is very... Oh, excuse me, I'm so sorry. These boxcars are very common. I believe, remember seeing the LRS reporting mark up here. Hopefully I'm not coming down with something. Not a good time to be doing that, especially when I'm trying to look for a car. Actually have a test drive tomorrow. 2019 Nissan Sentra, because you know they wouldn't approve me for a 15, but somehow they think approving me for a newer car would be better. Something to do with equity in case I default on the loan, which according to my credit they think I will. Might not seem important now, but definitely think about taking care of your credit, especially if you're young and just starting out. Like, take good care of that credit. Learn from my mistakes. Heed my warnings. I fucked up so you wouldn't have to. And again, this is just the first layer. You know, I will, and unfortunately that's just a common theme around Kaldvann, is that, you know, I come through with the first layer and I never come back to adding all the other layers. Like, there are many hand-laid roads where I said I was coming back to detail them and make them look more worn out and beat up that I've just yet to come back to. And I'll get there someday. Just today is not one of those days. But eventually I will get so sick of looking at it that I go, oh Jesus. Just wish the dirt textures were a little more kind of... Same. I'll have to find something. Oh, let's see, it's 2:49. I've been going for about an hour and 21. Won't be much longer because I am tired and I have my first therapy appointment at 12:30, so I want to make sure that I'm up for that. But definitely, like I said, some of these new trainz groups that I've been checking out lately, just like, show them some love, show them your support, and so on and so forth, and that's not what I wanted to do. We need to, yeah, support Jointed Rail and stuff like that for all the great work that they churn out, but at the same point, too, don't forget the new guys. It is those guys, too, that do make up a large portion and a large chunk of, I just loved how I said I was working on the right away tonight. Regardless, that do make up a large chunk of the content that, good stuff. Some of these guys are very talented and stuff like that, but, they're the guys that, don't get the spotlight and that people don't particularly know about. So if for the 3 or 4 people that watch this that maybe don't know about them, if I could get the word out, about, hey, here's this content group and stuff like that that's up and coming, good stuff. I like a lot of what these guys have put out. I am hesitant to try the routes because I believe both I think both of them have routes. Yeah, looking at Wigwag, they have the Minimalist, which I think is just a module, and then the Switchback, they actually have quite a few routes they put out. How big they are, I have no clue. They have currently Fillmore County, Old Fort Loops, BN Oasis, Georgian Paradise, Wildwood, New Jersey, and Hatchet Creek V2. I'd be curious to try out Fillmore County and Hatchet Creek. Hatchet Creek kind of seems cool. I think it's like an old, steam line and stuff like that, which I think is cool. I wouldn't mind operating a little steam route. And Fillmore County seems kind of interesting. Looks like I don't know. It just looks interesting. It's not maybe a route that I'm familiar with. But if you look at Old Fort Loops, definitely heard WIT talk about it. Georgian Paradise, I have no clue what that would be. And then Wildwood, New Jersey, I think that's an old Pennsy main line. But like I said, it all seems very, very interesting and stuff like that. And a lot of these guys, they're talented. There is very hidden talent out there. Some of these guys are good at reskinning, so I would consider taking a look at them. Yeah, it kind of sucks that places like Control Point Simulations didn't work out, and because the railroads want to be assholes and stuff like that. But, you know, it is what it is. Like I keep hearing, everything happens for a reason. Although I am sick of hearing that. Because literally everyone on the sun keeps telling me that nowadays. It's like, yeah, I get it. Things happen for a reason. Still want to be shot. Doesn't make the hurt go away, but okay. Maybe it's not meant to. But yeah, many, many good things. You know, I think that I wouldn't say we're in this Renaissance era. You know, I don't even know what you'd call this kind of time that we're experiencing in trains. You know, a lot of great content is getting churned out, especially even from JR and RR mods, where I think we're seeing this kind of war for your money, more or less. You know, they're creating a lot of locomotives that we've wanted for a long time, or well, maybe you guys have wanted for a long time. I don't care. You know, if it's something I like, I'll pick it up, but you know, if it's something I don't want or need, then okay, I'll just go about my day. You know, if it's CSX, I'll probably look at it because I do use and require a lot of CSX assets just because of the Carabasset. You know, I guess that's something I need now because of the nature of the Carabasset and who we interchange with. So, with that being said, you know, like the recent release of the CP content, like hell yeah. You know, I need the Canadian Pacific and stuff like that. So, oh, not what I wanted at all. Actually, we can just turn that back. There we go. Beautiful. Yeah, it doesn't have to be perfect. I go through there with some mud textures. just adding that little extra bit right there was worth it. Let's maybe tone that down a little bit. No, let's tone that down even more. There. We'll throw just some of this city dirt texture on top of it. There we go. Make it just blend in a little more. There, I think it gives it kind of this more worn look with the mud. Kind of forgot I had that texture sitting around. It does kind of give this better look to it, but no, I hear that RR Mods is getting ready to release some. They're redoing their GE models, and they're getting ready to release like they're bringing out their own redoing their C44s, and they're bringing out the AC6000. I think, don't quote me. Would love a good AC6000. Once upon a time, the Care Bassett was about to have some AC6000s, which I still would love to see. Still would love to see personally. But don't believe we ever will. I don't think that's a route that Sean wants to head. He's not a big GE guy himself. But, this is the main line. They're doing like 55 through here. Go ahead and put some gates down. So my apologies, I did say mainline work tonight, and here I am not doing mainline work tonight. Don't need 24 foot, kind of like the 12 by 24. We'll go with the 18 feet. I think unfortunately they're going to get E-bells, which I don't particularly like, but actually might come down to even a 12-foot gate. There's the M-bell. Now we're back to the 12 by 20. Okay, we'll just stick with it, I guess. Actually, that's pretty much where I needed to. I think we got 32-foot gates over here, which, sure. I suppose you want the whole road covered, so... Just looking at it here, you know, you can see 1, 2, 3 farms. I mean, it's quite a few fields here and stuff like that, but you get the idea that I think it's a reasonable number of farms for the fields themselves. So, I mean, there are more fields coming. I suppose the next thing to work on in the area is logging, because I will be pushing that forest kind of back up into the hills. Because logging is a pretty big export of this country, kind of as more and more trees have been introduced to the nation. The forests have grown thicker over the years, albeit not maybe in some areas, but but seeing how I'm yawning like a mother, and I got my appointment in the morning, I think it is time to call it quits, but I'm loving the looks of the fields even on the map just as we kind of push along further and further. And I'm happy that at least most of the textures do extend from Ranger all the way out toward you know, Hasvik and maybe even beyond at this point. So I think this is probably one of the most texturally complete, and I'm using that loosely, areas. The next time I do work in here, I definitely want to get some of this town kind of detailed. Mailbox, or I guess some mailboxes, street lights, signage, and stuff like that. Driveways. Kind of maybe finish this coastline and even get the seawall kind of built, figured out. I think even adding cars to this parking lot wouldn't be a bad idea, because I currently don't have any. But I think that's going to do it for this time, because, like I said, I need to sleep and get ready for my therapy appointment in the morning, so But wish me luck, guys, because I'm freaking nervous. I haven't done this in a long time. There's nothing to be nervous about, but with everything that's been going on, there's just certain situations where it's tough to talk about it, and this is definitely one of them, so. But I suppose, like other things, I will definitely get through it. But I'm liking the way this looks. Like I said, still just looks so nice. You know, it'll look better once, you know, the remaining areas like this, the coast and the sea walls and kind of the areas where we're missing texture still will get painted up. But even just looking out, like seeing the airport and, you know, the farm fields and the forest that surrounds it, and it looks very nice. Definitely want to loosely plant some trees kind of sparsely through the area. So, you know, these houses have some sort of protection or just some sort of foliage along the way. Maybe get some trees alongside this pond and make a small park right here for people to recreate. But it's definitely looking nice with the transportation center over there and the mountain up in the background. When everything is at its clearest, but you know, definitely seeing the airport right there and the forest kind of surrounding it. Definitely need to get some more forest kind of back up over here alongside the river and even out towards the rail line. Like I said, just adding more textures would definitely help. But I'm very happy with it. Even as we push out this way, like I don't know, something kind of coming along the C-17 here, heading west. Even just pushing along and kind of seeing how the road flows along, and seeing all its imperfections and how it just kind of flows with the train that's currently here. Definitely a dangerous intersection considering the crest of the hills right here, so cars coming flying up and over it, which I don't think this road actually has a speed limit. But again, just looking at the imperfections of the road, it kind of just flows with the land. Might not be the most smoothest ride, but definitely is more realistic this way. And I'll have to get this area figured out, and this is all just me throwing things down. Before I go, the idea that the food processing plant kind of falls in line over here. You know, which, you know, being so close to all these farms might not be necessary to drag in rail service, but considering how big it is, you know, maybe they don't contract with the farms and stuff like that, or the grain gets shipped in a different way. But there definitely is a plan for somewhere over here. It's either going to be kind of a natural preserve, or this could be like a small fishing port. Which, if it is, I imagine there'd be some sort of rail service. You know, maybe diesel being brought in, or fish being taken out, or so on and so forth. But definitely feel like there'd be some sort of rail service over here if there is a small fishing port. But regardless, like I said, I'm very, very happy with how things are turning out in this region in Hell's Gate County. Also a big fan of this toll booth. Just love the way all the lines look. They just flow. I just love the way they flow. I don't know, it's not very hard to please me, so That sounds weird. Anyways, it's not hard to make me appreciate things, I guess. Maybe is what I more or less meant. But it will be nice to maybe start working south along the A13 a little bit. Maybe starting to head out towards Straumen and Helheim. Of course, getting out towards Castine. Maybe one of these days I'll just drag out the highway and just rough it in. See where we take it and see where it goes so we can get an idea of where the A13 will flow to. That's what I did one day. I drug a road up and over the mountains, which, you know, didn't really serve much of a purpose other than just to see where it would go, what it would look like. You know, what obstacles we have to work with. But it'll definitely be interesting, so... Anyways, guys, I'm out of here. I appreciate you all for watching, if you do watch this, and I will talk to you all very, very soon. Have a good night. See ya.